Okay, you see here a lot of olive trees. That some of them are very old. This one here is about 400 years old, and this was transplanted into here from Cana of Galilee, nearby Nazareth. Although those trees were transplanted, they're old, they're growing still and producing. That means olive tree is very strong tree. It can live thousands of years. It can survive floods, drought, even fire. Now if you look here, you see that there are some branches that grow from the roots of the olive tree. Not through the trunk, but through the roots. Every olive tree will have those branches. This branch is the one that you cut, plant it somewhere else to start a new olive tree. And it has a special name in Hebrew. In Hebrew it is called Netzer. N-E-Z-E-R, Netzer. The word Nazareth in Hebrew is Nazareth. Is the same word. So Nazareth then means that kind of shoot that grow from the roots of the olive tree. In Matthew 4, the Bible says that Joseph and Mary came and lived in Nazareth in order to fulfill a prophecy that Jesus will be called the Nazarene from Nazareth. If you go to the Old Testament, read it all, try to find that prophecy, you don't find it. The only verse we can refer to is Isaiah 11:1 that speaks about this kind of branch. Isaiah 11:1 says, a shoot, a branch, will grow from the roots of Jesse. And Jesse was the father of King David. And that word in the Hebrew Torah, a branch, is Netzer, the same word of Nazareth. And as we know that Nazareth was built by people who came from Bethlehem. That's why Joseph and Mary needed to go back to Bethlehem, the city of their ancestors, to register. So they lived in Nazareth, and they come from the family lineage of David, and they called Nazareth a Netzer, a branch of their family lineage from Bethlehem. And that's why Jesus, who was that branch that the Bible spoke about, he lived in Nazareth, so he was that branch that the Bible spoke about. It was fulfilled with the word Nazareth by Nazareth. Yes. You understand the connection? Very good. Questions?
El tocón es ese. Interesante. This was the only possible direction.
¿Viste cuántos años tenía?
Come on, please.
Now usually if we got 100 kilos of olive, we're going to have about 25 kilos of oil, which means whatever we got olive, we're going to have about 25% oil. Any questions? Enjoy your time.
Thank you, Simon.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, if you take the dress like that, you look like.
Okay, first of all, I just want to make sure that that pictures are allowed for private users.
Yes,
Any other users need to see the office. All right. This is here a plow. same kind of plow that they had at that time to plow the fields. And a donkey will come here, and this will be put on the donkey's neck. The donkey will start to go, while the farmer would hold it from here and push it inside the ground. This metal piece goes into the ground, and that makes the plowing, okay? To flip upside down all the dirt. Be preparing for the sowing, for the planting. And very important for the farmer, when he plows, from here, to look straight forward, focus on the goal, and go and come back in order to make straight line. If he plows and he looks like this, his lines will be like this, winding up. He's not good farmer. Remember what Jesus said once? Don't put your hand on the plow and look on the back. It's not good for the people. The focus on the goal. So now let's start to see how Jesus used the image of the life of the first century to form the message and speak to the people. People understood it because this is the life that they live. For us, this is coming far from our imagination because we live differently. That's what our purpose is to bring alive again all these images in your mind. So when you read the Bible again, you have a deeper understanding. This here is a threshing floor. Threshing floor is to thresh the wheat. What means to thresh? To get the seeds out from the wheat heads, this is threshing. How you do this? You harvest the wheat, and this field we would have planted with wheat every year. So now we're gonna start to plow it. Next week, I think we're gonna plant it with wheat. Then it grows. In the summertime, we do the harvest and bring the wheat and put it on the ground here to thresh it on the floor, threshing floor. You fill all this with the wheat like this, and then you bring this wooden board. Come and see. This is a broken one, but we bring a good one with which was one piece. Yeah, this is like two pieces, but this should be one piece. Okay, and then as you see, there are holes in it. They put in every hole a stone stuck inside. You see the stone? Mm-hmm. It's basalt stone, rough stone. Mm-hmm. They flip this upside down, the stones toward down above the wheat. Okay, then a donkey will be attached to the board. Donkey will start to pull it around here and drag the board behind it up above the wheat, and a child will sit on the board to put weight. Yeah, this is his Luna Park game. Okay. What happened then underneath that board? Look at my hands. All these wheat heads will be rubbed just like this, and all the seed just comes out. Okay, that's what threshing is. And then they need to separate the seeds from the chaff, from the straw, with this tool. It's called the winnowing fork. Winnowing fork. They would lift the mixture up. By the wind, the straw flies away. The chaff is away. It's lighter, and the seeds fell on the floor. Now, before we leave here, I want to share with you one story from the New Testament. The Bible said once that Jesus was passing between the fields with the disciples, and they were very hungry. So they started to pick some wheat heads with their hands, and they rubbed them, just as I made right now, and they ate the seeds. You're familiar with stories from the Bible? Mm-hmm. Good. So, and they ate the seeds, and this happened on the Sabbath day. Now who was around? Pharisees, for sure. They were very angry about this. And they said to him, why your disciples are breaking the Sabbath? Why they said so? Because this action that they made is similar to this board, what this board will do here, similar to work. Now you can see that Jesus was surrounded by very picky people, troublemakers. But Jesus answered them very nicely. He said to them, the Sabbath was made in order to serve the man, not the man should serve the Sabbath. Which means when the Sabbath becomes a burden on your shoulder, and you become slave of the Sabbath, this was not the goal of the Sabbath. and the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath, he said. By the way, do you know what the word Sabbath means? Sabbath means rest. So the Sabbath was given to give them some rest. But they did the opposite. They started criticized. Okay? Understandable? Very good. Questions? Alright. This is Abraham. Hello, Abraham.
Hello.
He is our shepherd, taking care of the sheep here. We have a small herd of sheep, 4 sheep, that we do shear them. We cut the wool in the summertime, and we take the wool to the weaver's house. We're going to be there later on to speak about the weaving process to make pieces of cloth. Now the shepherd will take the sheep outside of their homes, to the fields, to the green fields to graze them. At the end of the day, they don't come back home. They stay outside, and they stay overnight outside, and they will guard them. The same story of the shepherds of the Nativity. There were shepherds out guarding over their flock at night, the Bible says. Right? Then the next day morning, they continue to be there until several days they finish the area, all the grass. Then they move forward away from their homes. They don't come back home. So they travel away from their homes several weeks. They don't come back home. We know this also from the story of Joseph, when his father Jacob sent him to look after his brothers, the shepherds. He went days until he get where they are. So when they're out, you need to guard them somewhere. So if you find a natural cave like this will be the best place to keep them. And they make closets like this with a sheepfold, wooden sheepfold, higher fence like this, and then make a door, because you need to get the sheep in and out in the next few weeks before we leave from here. Now the weakest point of the sheepfold is the door, the weakest point. So if anyone wants to attack the sheep, he goes through the door, or want to steal. That's what, to double guard the sheep. The shepherd will lay at the door on the floor, beside the door, every night to guard the sheep. So if anyone wants to go into the sheepfold, go through the door, he goes through the shepherd first. Then the shepherd becomes the door of the sheepfold. And that's what Jesus had said, I'm the door of the sheepfold. No one's coming in and out but through me. And I will lay down my life for my sheep. Physically, the shepherd will lay down to guard his sheep. Again, all these images from the first century life that Jesus used. Normally, they will have also goats with the sheep. You know the goats, the different animal, similar but with horns. Okay. Goats are different than the sheep, not only from the way they look like, but also in behaving wise. The goats are troublemakers. They don't listen to the shepherd easily. They don't follow him easily. They don't even trust him. They trust themselves much more. They go wherever they like. They climb trees and hills. They fall down. They put themselves in troubles many times. And that is opposite from the sheep that are more obedient to the shepherd. They follow him. They recognize his voice. And they know wherever he takes them is the best place, so they follow him. And that's why Jesus always said about his followers, you're my sheep. He didn't say you're my goats. And the Bible says when Jesus comes back, what's he going to do?
Separate the sheep from the goats.
Exactly. It's going to separate the people just like how the shepherds separate the sheep from the goats. The Bible symbolizes the sheep with the believers, the goats with the none. Just because of this fact I just mentioned right now. So people understood what is the difference. Again, all these things, if you understand the life of the first century, this will open your eyes to understand the Bible stories much better. Questions, comments, or concerns?
I had sheep at home, I had sheep, and I was amazed when I came to Israel 30-something years ago to see the sheep following the shepherd, because they don't at home. We round up the sheep, you go behind the sheep, and you use sheepdogs and you drive them forward. So it was so amazing to see it in the countryside here, to see the sheep following the the shepherd, which is totally different than home, and it didn't make sense from home when you have to drive the sheep.
Exactly. That's why the Holy Land, it's called the fifth gospel. When you come and see it,
Yes,
it's,
yeah.
you know,
Explains a lot.
yes.
And they are very stupid animals, like we are.
Yeah, the sheep are dumb. They, exactly. Okay. Thank you, Abraham.
Welcome.
Follow me, please. His fathers, what he laid with his ancestors. It means physically, they used to be gathered in the same spot. Now, about a year after death, they used to come back to the tomb and they collect the bones. Then they put the bones in bone box made of a stone with a cover, with a lid. It's called an ashwari. Archaeologists find a lot of these ashwaris in many other places, and they put this ashwari inside the cave, not in the niche, beside the niche on the corner. The niche will be empty for another person. Yeah. Now this type of burial was for rich people, because the simple and the poor people would be buried in the ground. They dig a hole, they bury the body in the ground, and they put dirt on top of it, and that's it. They don't come to collect the bones afterward. Jesus was using the tomb belonged to Joseph of Arimathea, and this person was rich. That's why this is the kind of tomb he had. Jesus had a rich man's tomb, and this was an important thing to happen. Why? Because there is a prophecy about it in Isaiah 53. It says the Messiah's tomb was prepared with wicked during his time, because they're supposed to be buried with the other two crucified person with him. But the Bible said that he ended up in a rich man's tomb at his death, and this happened when Joseph of Arimathea asked the body of Jesus from Pontius Pilate, and he put it in his own tomb. Okay? Questions?
He didn't need to use it for very long.
Exactly. And that's why when he came back home, and his wife told him, Joseph, what you did? You gave our tomb to someone else? He said, don't worry, it's just for the weekend.
When they say that they put a big stone in front of it, was like the tomb was so big that the stone was really big, or they put an extra stone?
I don't know why everybody that comes here think that the stone should be bigger than this. Everybody, not only you. This is the size of the stone. Archaeologists have found stones like this size. Maybe people saw in a movie something too big.
My question was because they said there was like it was hard to move it. I
Yeah,
don't know
good,
what I did.
good. Go and move it. Not only you, all the women here go and move this stone.
Okay.
This is 500 kilograms. Half a ton, yes.
Okay?
What you need more than this?
Just for your little finger. Just for your little finger.
It's not you that we built a village first, and then we found the farm by accident later on. The village that we built, I mean by that the buildings and the houses we're gonna see up later on. By the farm, I meant all what you see in front of you here. But the first archaeological finding we found here is this rock where I'm standing right now. All this was under the ground, full of dirt. And one day in 1996, one of our archaeologists who was helping us to build the village was passing here, and he saw part of this revealed to his eyes. He saw cuts in the rock, and he decided to bring his tools and to clean it up and dig it. When he was digging here, he used to find potteries, pieces inside from the 1st century. And he said to himself, well, I am excavating something from the time of Jesus here. When he finished digging what he found, there is a big hole, big vat down there cut out from the rock, and a big basin up here also cut out from the rock, and both of them are connected together with a channel that you see here. He immediately understood what's this. Do you have any ideas what this might be?
A wine press.
Exactly, it's a 1st century wine press. The grapes they put the grapes up here, they take the sandals off, simply walk on the grapes with their bare feet to press them, then the juice flows down through the channel here, will be collected down. Then they scoop it out, put it in their jars, take them home and make wine. The question, why the grapes? should be pressed with their bare feet. Why they don't bring stone roller and roll it up? It would be faster with stone roller and more, maybe much easier. But they do it with their bare feet because it was much more delicious with the feet. Believe me, that's the answer. It was much nicer with their feet, but not because of the feet aroma, for sure, but because of the seeds of the grapes that are very bitter. If you crush them, the bitterness will be given to the juice, and only your bare foot don't crush the seeds. If you think of any other technique of that time, you crush into the seeds. Yes. After we found this wine press here, we understood that this land behind me, it was a vineyard. Because they don't do the wine press away from the vineyard. They don't transfer the grapes for long distances because they will ruin them in the way. Then our archaeologists said if there was a vineyard here, they should have done it in terraces because you cannot cultivate a mountain as it is. There should be kind of flat terrace. They said let us dig to find the terraces, and that's what happened. They dug and they found all the terraces you see here. Those are original ones that we found. You need to imagine this was a big mountain, hill, full of dirt. So when you excavate all this, we restored them for sure. They were falling down, but the basis of all of those we found here. And then our archaeologists said, maybe this farm extended in the other side of the street in that land. Maybe let's dig over there. Maybe we can find something. So they dug over there, and when they dug in the other side, they found the rest of the farm. Over there, they found more terraces, like this. They found water channels for irrigation and watering. They found wells and cisterns. They found stone quarries where they cut stones to build homes. But the most exciting thing for us was when they found and discovered a tower, a watchtower to watch the field, to protect the crops from being eaten by animals or stolen by people. That's why we made here a replica of the watchtower that we found on the other side. And the question is, why, from all the things we found on the other side, the watchtower was much more meaningful for us? Because when we found the watchtower, we ran back to the office, opened the Bible on Mark 12, verse 1, and read the parable that Jesus says, a man planted a vineyard, surrounded that vineyard with a wall, and that means the terrace that you see here, and he dug a wine press in it, and he built a watchtower that we found on the other side. It's amazing. You can think that Jesus was standing here and describing this piece of land. Now you need to remember that this is only 500 meters, 5 to 10 minutes walk away from where Jesus' home is supposed to be. If I ask each one of you, can you tell me please what you can see around your house on a 5-minute distance, you can tell me, right? Also Jesus, I'm very sure he was familiar with this place. He maybe climbed this hill many times, helping with the harvest, playing as a child, maybe even pressed grapes here, we don't know.
Maybe he made wooden plows and things for the farm.
Exactly, because he also was participating with the life of the first century. Festivals, and also this was a festival at that time because they would dance and sing while they're pressing, because this is the end of the year where they get the crops of the whole work, of the hard work that they made the whole year. So maybe just press grapes here in this press. We don't know. I can't say 100% that he was speaking about this piece of land. That is a very similar one, but this is the last one in Nazareth. All Nazareth has modern buildings right now. How this was kept since then? No buildings, because all Nazareth is built back. Because this land belonged to the hospital that you see here in front of you, which is a Scottish Christian mission, and they came here in 1861, more than 150 years ago. They built their hospital, they owned the land, they did not need it all this time, so they never built on it, and it was preserved until we came in 1996 and we found it. Today we belong to the hospital ministry called Nazareth Trust that has 4 missions, which is hospital 1, to wait for her to come. Joke, to give you some chance to catch your breath. But second, to speak about agriculture. How people at that time used to cultivate this kind of terrain. How they used to farm the hilly land, which is in Galilee. All the, I don't know if you noticed or not, all the land in Galilee especially is hilly, mountains. So how you cultivate a hill or a mountain? The solution is to make terraces, to create the flat land, to make the flat land by making the terraces. Now I want you to understand that the terraces will not belong to the same farmer. A farmer may own only 1 terrace, maybe 2 terraces. His neighbor may own the terraces beside or below. That's why they needed to have a path to be an access way to go between the terraces, to be an access way for all the farmers that each one can reach his terrace. And this path is the one that we took it to come up here. This path, you see this path goes all the way from down and goes up all the way. this path used to be owned by everybody. This is property for the whole village. It doesn't belong to anyone. Even if you have two terraces, the way between them does not belong to you. It's for everybody. So no one then is allowed to sow that path. They don't even plow it with a plow that I showed you. And since people walk on it all the time up and down, it remains all the time compressed and solid. Now imagine the farmer wants to sow the seeds. What he does? Just takes seeds and he goes out. Then he starts to throw the seeds like this on the terraces. As he does this, some of the seeds, by accident, will fall on this path. Those seeds will not grow up because they don't plow it. But the seeds will remain on the top of the surface, and then the birds will come and eat it up. Did anyone speak about this? Seems familiar to you? Oh, really? Jesus? He did that again to me? Yeah, that's the parable of the sower, right? Remember that parable, huh? Then Jesus said, some of the seeds will fall on stony ground. And stony ground does not mean small stones among the terraces and the farmer is not cleaning. No. But it means the bedrock, as you can see over here, which is very close to the surface. And the rock is covered with a layer of dirt. There is the rock underneath this dirt. If I dig here, I reach the rock immediately. So this dirt is not deep, it's shallow. This shallow, not deep soil will be wet in the winter when the farmer sows. So the plant will start to grow up because the soil is still wet because it's winter. But when the hot sun comes in the spring and in the summer, it will burn it because there is no depth of roots. So those plants will not gonna stay until the harvest time. They're not gonna make any fruit, just for a while, and soon they will die. Some seeds fell among the thorns and the weeds, which grew up and choked the plant. You can see some thorns and weeds in some places here. Thorns and weeds have very deep and strong roots. It's very hard to kill them. Sometimes the farmer uses a hoe to kill the parts above the ground, but under the ground the root stays and it spread all over. It's very hard to get rid of those. When the farmer sows and the seed fell among the thorns, his plant that he just sowed will start to grow with the thorns, but the thorn will grow faster because they have deeper and stronger roots, and then they choke the young plant and kill it. Because it grows faster, it makes a shade, it covers the sun and the air, take all the water, will be no chance for this young plant to make it, and soon also will die, like the one on the rock. And the final kind of soil he spoke about is the good soil, and that means the terraces. But here, I want you to understand one further more step. That good soil shouldn't mean always very fertile soil. It should be at least the opposite of the three previous ones. What I mean by that, if the path is not good because it is not plowed, okay, the good soil, you plow it, you prepare it, you receive the seed. It's deep soil, it's not shallow. It's clean from thorn. But how much this good soil is also very fertile soil, this is a different question. Because this depends on the kind of soil and the minerals inside and the microbiological creatures in it and how much manure and fertilizer you throw and put in it. Compost. What I'm trying to tell you is that all the good soils will and should make crops, but they will make different amounts of crops according to their fertility, and that's why Jesus said some will make 30-fold, some 60-fold, and some 100-fold. When you apply it on people, it works very well. All Jesus' followers should make crops, at least a little. That's the sign that we're followers. But we're different. We're not the same. Okay? Understandable? Questions? Very good. Before we leave here, let me mention something to figs. You see the fig tree here?
Yes.
And the fig tree over there that you took a photo of? And there's the big one over there. There are many stories in the Bible about figs. I'm not gonna tell you all those because we don't have time. Next time you come with me and Jesus said Yes, I lead the guys sometimes Israel, walk from Nazareth to Capernaum. It's 5 days. So, and then we stop and see all these trees and speak about all the stories. But I'm going to mention one story to you only about figs here. Jesus once came in Jerusalem and he was hungry and he came to a fig tree and he didn't find any figs on it. What he did? Cursed it or unblessed it. What happened to the fig tree? Yes, it dried the next day. It dried and died. Right? I don't know if you noticed something strange in that story. The last verse in that story, what it says? It wasn't the season of the figs, right? Right? His eyes was open. After 10 years of guiding here, I was guiding someone who's Jewish, don't know this story, and don't know the Bible, but he is figs expert. When we arrived at fig tree over there, he told me, you taught me a lot along the way. Let me teach you something about figs. I said, yeah, please, go ahead. And he told me, do you know that every fig tree, before the season, it should have at least one fruit or two fruits? If it doesn't have any, it means it's not going to make fruits even in the season. What? Do you know? Now you give me an answer to a story in the Bible, and I told him the story. Since then, I come every... So maybe don't stand by the arch here. Maybe inside or over there. Alright, we're a small group, it's okay. So we're in an olive press here, and we're gonna see how the olive press is made and done. And here is Saul. They're gonna tell us about how this works out. So please.
Yeah. So usually in the middle of October we picking the olive from the land here, and all the olive they bring here. This place they call the olive press. And here we have two stages to get the oil. First one, we have to crush the olive in this part here with this big stone. It's very heavy stone. They can crush the olive with the seeds. The seeds also we have a little of oil. So I'll put some of olives. You can hear the crushing. Mozi, let's go.
The donkey's name is Mozi. Say hi, Mozi. Listen to the...
Whoa!
You will go around many times. You will go around many times until they're looking like this. It's olive mash. This olive mash we take by hands. It's very oily, as you see. We put around this basket, and we take like 8 or 10 baskets on the another side there. As I tell you, it's very oily, but we didn't get any oil from here. To get the oil from there, to make more pressure for the baskets, and to get the oil from the breast.
Thank you, Saul.
Shukran.
Come to this side, please. Let us continue the process. Be careful. Watch your steps, please. Try as much as you can not to fall down. So, the second stage is to press it. So crushing first and then pressing. So what do? You put the baskets that he fills over there with the crushed olives under the press. We have 2 presses here that work the same way. So they pile the baskets on top of each other. You can see it each side, over there or over here, because we have the same thing. And there is a vat or a hole underneath the basket to collect the oil, the drops. Okay? And then they lower, after they pack the baskets on top of each other, they lower the press down. Now this press is left up with a rope, okay, and the pulley. You know how this system works. You pull the rope, it goes up, and then you lose it, it goes down. Okay, so they lose the rope with the pulley. This moves down, and this side here and there, the round part will sit on the basket, and the weight of the beam, the wooden beam, will be squeezing the olives inside the basket, and oil drops down underneath the basket. There is a hole to collect the oil. In order to put much more pressure, they left these stones up, because the weight of the beam, wooden beam only, is not enough. So they left these stones up by connecting the stone down with this rope. Okay, and this is the pulley system that you use. This kind of wooden handle, it goes in here, and then you push this down here, and this lifts the stone up. And this 500-600 kilograms of stone will be pushing the wood beam down much stronger. The second, the third, like about 1.5 tons. All these. This is squeeze the olives totally over there, all the oil, then gets down to the hole, to the vat. Then they remove the basket to the side. Someone goes down there, put his hand inside the hole with a ladle or a cup, and they collect the oil. Now the same basket needs to be pressed 3 times, 3 presses. The first press, they get the best oil. And that oil will be taken to the temple at that time. With this oil, they light the menorah of the temple. The unknown kings and prophets and priests will use for themselves to cook. They put the basket again, press them now second time. Still get good quality of oil. That was for their food, for cooking, for making medicines, perfumes, for cosmetics. But then they press the baskets one more time, a third press. Now they get less quality of oil. Some of the outside skins would start to get outside of the basket and be mixed with the oil. So this lower quality of oil was used for lighting the oil lamps and to make soap, washing soaps.
About the virgins, the lamps,
Huh?
the parable of the lamps and the virgins.
Yes, exactly. The parable of the 10 virgins, that they had the lamps, that they were waiting for the groom. This is the kind of lamp they had. Exactly. That's why when the Bible said they trimmed the lamp, because after you light the wick, okay, there is the other one over there with the wick. Yeah. Okay. See? So I just touched the wick here and it broke. Why? Because when it's burnt, you need to get it out more, a new one, okay, and light it, and that's what they did. Okay, so this is the lamp they had at that time. So that's the third press. Okay? Wow. All right. Before we leave here, I want to tell you one story from the Bible, or remind you about a story that you know. Jesus once, and not once, I mean, in the last night of his life, he went to Jerusalem, to pray in a place that is called the Garden of Gethsemane. Gethsemane. Those are 2 words in Aramaic. It's Gat and Shemanim, or Shemanim. Gat means press. Shemanim means oil. So Gethsemane means an olive press. Just like this one. When Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray, when you read the story, you feel that Jesus was under a pressure. Psychological pressure, because he knew he'd be arrested soon. The next day he's going to be crucified. It is a big pressure until he even started to sweat. His sweat becomes like drops of blood. So you can imagine that he was pressed. He was squeezed, just like olives, in an olive press like this one. It just gives us an idea about how much suffering he suffered in the Garden of Gethsemane. And if you remember, he even prayed there 3 times, which means he was pressed 3 presses, just like the olive baskets also, that will be pressed 3 times and 3 presses. They pressed only 1 press. Even the timing was accurate. He was pressed 3 hours. Every press took an hour. And I also see as the 3 presses of the oil goes for 3 different uses. I can see also that Jesus was pressed over there for 3 purposes. As if the oil, the first press goes to the temple, I see that Jesus also dedicated his first press just to honor God. He said, "Let be to me, not to my will, but to your will." He came to do his will, God's will. So to honor God, that was the first press, just to dedicate this to honor God. The second press of the oil goes for what? For food. That's the part of us that Jesus said, "I'm the bread, comes from heaven, that you can eat and live forever." And the third press that goes for lamps, I see that Jesus also was pressed a 3rd time for us to be a light for all nations, for everybody. Yes. Okay. Questions? غادر ولا مالك شمرين؟ لا منيح لا. لا. Okay. All right, so we're coming here now to see the houses. We're going to visit all the houses. In every house, we're going to see a professional workshop Here is the potter's house, and this is Elijah here. Hello, Elijah.
Hello, hello.
He's our partner,
Yeah.
and Elijah is gonna tell you about his job, what he is doing here. Yes, Elijah,
Okay,
please.
so I'm the potter. It's a long process and you need to be very patient. You should start from preparing the clay, and behind that fence you see we have the two pools.
Down there.
This is where you usually prepare the clay. The moment it's ready, you just store it inside. Then slowly you take a lump of that clay and you lay it on this small wheel. Then with my leg I just start moving the other one, see? Then I start shape and create the kind of tool or vessel or cup, whatever I have in my mind, okay? The moment it's done, it's created, I should lay it to dry slowly in the shade. It can take 3-4 weeks. Yeah? You shouldn't see the sun at all, because the sun can make cracks in the stuff. Then you need to break it and start from the beginning. While the tool is drying slowly in the shade, usually I add the handles, or if I need to make holes.
Do you make any that are sold in the shop?
Yes, there are some stuff. Yes.
The lamps are
This is
very
oil
yes,
lamp.
the
This is
lamps,
oil
yeah,
lamp.
they're very like the ones
This
in
is
India.
also oil lamp,
Yes.
and this is an oil lamp.
Yeah.
And this is the oil lamp.
Come all the way in, please.
Noisy over there.
Thank you. Stay there.
This is Joseph, our carpenter.
Whoa.
Hello, Joseph. He's doing all the tools that we need here, using the same techniques and work that they had at that time. For example, chisels, different kind of chisels they had, and those similar different shapes and sizes. Okay. They had a plane to plane the wood that we know from today. Some carpenters use similar plane until today to plane the wood. After planing the wood, you need to sand it. So they had a volcanic stone, rough volcanic basalt stone to sand the wood. Then a softer stone, also basalt, was used for sharpening the tools to sharpen. Okay. And adze, they have something called an adze. What's this tool?
Crossword, yes.
This was to cut the wood, to make the shape. Very useful tool. Then the other side of it is hammer. They had a saw to cut the wood. This is the kind of saw they had. It's called a rope saw. There is a rope over there to be tied it to tie the blade. And one last tool I want him to show you. I want you to guess, and you tell me please what this tool can do. What do you think this is it? It's a similar. It's a drill.
It's a drill.
Yes. It may take about 3 years and a half, but it will. So next year we come see the progress, John.
Wow.
Behind you here is a corner where a stone worker, a mason worker will work with their tools, the heavy tools for the masonry work and the stones work. Why we have this here in the carpenter shop? Because I want to change your mind a little bit about Jesus and Joseph's trade. You thought all your life that they were carpenters, and this is not exactly accurate. So Jesus and Joseph weren't carpenters. So what they were, they were tecton people. persons. What tecton is? Tecton is a Greek word that in the Bible, in the New Testament Greek version, was used to describe Jesus and Joseph straight. Tecton. The Bible said they were tecton. What tecton means? Tecton means constructor. Someone who construct and build houses and homes. Now, you look around you here, building a house, you need both wood and stones. So you do the roof of wood, the whole building from stone. So you need to have a qualifications of working with both wood and stones. So Joseph and Jesus weren't only providing wood things. They could do also furniture, and because they have the qualification and the tools to work with wood, but also with stones. Jesus used a lot of parables and images from the builders. When he spoke about the cornerstone that was rejected, for example, he spoke about the foolish man and the wise man that they built on sand, the one built on the rocks. He spoke about the kingdom of God that is a whole building, and every stone is functioning specifically. Look around here. Every stone has a specific job. Doesn't matter the size, the shape. Everyone has specific spot to be used, and every one of us is part of this building of kingdom of God that has to fit exactly one specific, space and position. So Jesus and Joseph weren't simple carpenters providing windows and doors frames, but also builders. So you can imagine Jesus with muscles, cutting stones from stone quarries. We tend to think that he's a blonde and blue eyes and soft man. I mean, he's soft, his heart, but his body maybe tough was. Okay. But why we think that Jesus was a carpenter? Because the translators of the Bible originally they came from Europe, where building houses there is made of wood. So they translated this as a carpenter, and that's what is stuck in our mind as a carpenter until today. Okay. Now we're in the courtyard of the house, which was used as a workshop, as also kitchen, as we're gonna see the second part. And from here we're gonna go to the second house, which is the weaver house, and the two houses are connected together. Why? Because we represent here an extended family. When someone would marry from that time, he wouldn't build a separate house in a different place, but he would expand his parents' house. He add some rooms to his parents' house, and that's why all the rooms are connected together. And maybe yesterday in Capernaum, you saw that all the houses are connected together. You didn't understand why? Because those are families, extended family members. Okay, all over. All right. So we're gonna go to Weaver's house. Thank you, Joseph.
Tecton.
Yes.
Of course, in English we have architect.
Yes,
From the
architect.
same talks about who's builder and architect is God.
Yeah.
He knows this here.
Building a kingdom, the whole, so many things that.
Architect is architect.
تعملي كل التهيئات مع هاي شوفي معي هاي بعد ما رجعنا هاي المرة لا المرة قبل الكورونا مريحة هون المحطة لسه هاي المرة ما كانت تجي هون فلوس أول واحد إنه الشغل مطبخ مقارنة مع هون واو هون كيفية يعني احتفال تذكار إلها وعلقناها هي اسمها ميرز كيتشن حطها لها عشان ذكراها هاي. Okay, so we're at the weaver's house, and this is Hannah. Hello, Hannah.
Hi.
She's our weaver and doing all the weaving stuff and process from the beginning. So, which means that we do shear the sheep. We cut the wool of the sheep with the same kind of scissors we had at that time. This is the first stage to do it. Yeah.
We have them in Ireland, but they like
And then after this, you need to wash it because it's gonna be very dirty. So you go wherever you have a cistern outside, well, a spring, okay, or a stream, or even sometimes you have a little bit. You can do it here in the vat, but then you can dye it. You can make the colors because you can use it with the natural colors of the sheep. This is natural colors, but if you want to dye it and make colors, you can do this. How would they do the colors? For example, if they would boil it with onions peels, okay, they would get those kind of colors with onions peels. If they boil it with pomegranate skins, okay, they get kind of red, like this, or like this, okay. Nuts shells make the brown or gray brown, okay. A little bit expensive color is this, and this was made out of yes, saffron, exactly, okay. But the most expensive colors are the blue and the purple. Those considered the royal colors. Only kings and very rich people can use them. Even Jesus, in his way to the cross, in order to mock him as a king, they put a purple garment on him. This is very, very expensive since those were made out of sea snails. The shells of the snails, like this, they make this kind of color. The animal inside will make a liquid, release kind of liquid that can make this kind of color. And you need 3,000 of those to do a little bit of dye for a little wool. Then you can comb it, clean it much more, make it nice and soft. And now you can make the threads, spinning. Using the spindle, that's the tool she's holding, it's called spindle. She would hold the two edges together to two sides, and then she spin them, and they will be attached with no ties, nothing. Just the fibers themselves will be connected to each other, just like this. Okay. Yeah. لا خلاص طبيعي بس عم صوتين. What you did مثل ما عملتيها خلاص أشرح لك. It's not ready, see, because it tangles back. So what they need to do is to put it around the handle, and then make balls like this before they use it, and leave it for about a month. And now, now it's okay. See, doesn't go backward. Okay, it stays. Okay, so now. Okay, then they have to weave it on the loom here. This is called loom. She ties the threads up and then down with weights. Okay, so into the width she places a shuttle, that wooden tool that she's holding. The shuttle should go up and down, above the first thread, underneath the second, above the third. So what she does, the easiest and the fastest way for her is where with her fingers she grabs every other thread, every other one, put it on top of the thread. And see, every other thread she takes up. Okay, every other one, to put it on one side of the shuttle, all the one on the other side, and then she sticks them up with that wooden comb to tie them up all until she finished back and forth until she finished all the way down. Then she cut the threads, tie everything together, and take it off, and then this will be the final product. So this we made it from our sheep wool from zero. Yeah, and with the leftovers that she cuts from the thread, she makes first century Barbie dolls. Yeah. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank
you. Okay. Follow me, please. Okay. Go ahead, please, and sit down. July. When the other people left, I was so much boring. How many still out?
A couple more, I think.
Okay, we are sitting here in a replica of a synagogue. So this is how synagogue was like in the first century. All the buildings you saw here are replicas. We made it, but we built them with the same building materials of that time, which are, those are stones of the walls are put together with a mixture of dirt, soil, with water, ashes of the fire, straw or hay and lime. With this we plastered the walls inside, and also we filled the floor and the roof. Above the wooden part there are up 3 layers. The first and the third is this kind of mixture that I mentioned to you. In the middle they put a dry layer of soil. That was put in order to absorb the rain in it and prevent it from leaking down. Then they'll bring a big stone roller and roll it up. It makes it compressed, like this roll. And this is maybe the same kind of rope that the story tells us about the 4 men that opened the roof and brought the paralyzed person to Jesus to heal him in Capernaum. So it's doable because mud and dirt up are soft to dig it. You can break the wooden small branches or reeds, but then you lower the person between the wooden beams. Not because he was super skinny person, but because the beams at Jesus' time had more distance. So they can fit between 2 beams. Here, we needed to put more beams for safety. Because we are 2,000 years after Jesus today, and we have human rights. It's a different rule, not to protect our people. Now the synagogue in the first century wasn't used only as a religious place, it was even mainly meeting place. And it was a school for the children in the morning. And it was a courthouse to judge people. And on the Sabbath day, on Saturday, it was the place, time, and the place where they can read the Torah scripture. The Torah scrolls will be kept in jars. This one is a replica of the scroll jars were found near the Dead Sea in a place called Qumran with the Dead Sea scrolls. The reader will stand here, we can open the Torah scroll and read it. And the storage of the scroll will be in that room. They store all the scrolls with a jar in the storage room over there. Now we know that Jesus did that in Nazareth. One Sabbath day he went to the synagogue in Nazareth. He stood up to read the scriptures. And he was handed the book of the prophet Isaiah. And he unrolled the scroll. And he found the place where it was written,
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set the oppressed free, to declare the year of the Lord's favour.
Then he rolled up the scroll, put it back, and sat down. Now all the people in the synagogue had their eyes fixed on him, because he said to them,
Today, this reading is fulfilled in your hearing.
They were all well impressed with him, and they started to ask each other, look at the gracious words that are coming out his mouth. Isn't he the son of Joseph? But then he continued and he said,
Surely you will quote this proverb to me, Physician, heal yourself. And you'll ask me to do here in Nazareth the things you heard I did in Capernaum. Truly I tell you, no prophet is ever accepted in his hometown. For there were many widows living here in Israel at the time of Elijah, when the skies were shut for 3.5 years, and there wasn't even the tiniest drop of rain in that time. So there was a very severe famine in the land, and everybody was absolutely starving hungry. Yet God didn't send Elijah to help any of the widows living here in Israel. He sent Elijah to help and feed a widow in Zarephath, in far-off Sidon. And at the time of the prophet Elisha, there were many people here suffering with leprosy. Yet not a single one of the lepers here were cleansed and healed, only Naaman from Syria.
hearing all this, the people in the synagogue were full of anger. And they looked at Jesus, and they came toward him, and they did push him outside, and they would throw him over the cliff that their town was built on, and kill him. And the question is, why? What happened? Why they changed their minds? A few minutes ago, they said, look at the gracious words that are coming out of his mouth. And now they want to kill him. Maybe you noticed that this happened immediately after Jesus told them two stories from the Old Testament. And he mentioned those two people as examples of faith. The first one was the story of Naaman, the Syrian, the one that had leprosy, and came to the prophet Elisha, asking him to heal. Elisha sent him to the Jordan River to dip 7 times to be healed. He did that and he was healed. A miracle happened to his life because he obeyed the prophet. The second story Jesus told him, it was about the widow of Zarephath Sidon, the one who lived at the town of Elijah. Elijah at that time prayed, stopped the rain for 3 years and a half because the people of Israel were worshipping other gods, Baal. And Baal was the god of rain. And Elijah told him, okay, I'm going to pray for my God and stop the rain for you. And see if Baal, the god of rain, will help you. And really it was a big famine until he wanted to pray again and brought the rain again. But in the midst of that time, he was in need. He was sent by God to this woman, the widow of Zarephath Sidon. He asked her a piece of bread to eat. She had a little of olive oil, a little of flour. He told her, if you give me a piece of bread from what you have, the little of ingredients you have will not be finished until rain will be back. She believed that this will happen. She did so. And the miracle happened. Then immediately the Bible said they were filled with anger when they hear that, these two stories. Although that these are two stories from the Bible that they know. But they know, remember what was the problem with these two persons he mentioned as example of faith? Exactly, they were two Gentiles. They were not Jewish people. Jesus mentioned two Gentiles as example of faith to the Jewish community that was listening. So Jesus could have thought about David, Daniel, Samson. There are enough examples of Jewish faith in the Bible. Why is talk about two Gentiles? It's a purpose because in other words, he wanted to tell them, look, I'm the Messiah, and I came according to the prophecy I just read, I come for you, my people, for my Jewish nation. Yes, but I came also for Gentiles. That means that also the Romans, their enemies, will have part in his ministry. Whenever at that time they were thinking the Messiah would come to free them from the Romans. This is the Messiah that they were waiting for. This is the Messiah that was in their mind. All of a sudden they get a different version of the Messiah. The one that is opening the door for salvation, for freedom, even for the Gentiles' enemies. That's what for them he wasn't the right person. He was just a blasphemer that has to be stoned. Took him outside to stone him to death, but it was not the right time for him to die still. So he went among the crowds and he left Nazareth, and from that day on he started to live in Capernaum. And Capernaum started to be called his hometown. He never came back to live in Nazareth anymore afterwards.